I can get her in. I am going to go ahead and share I'm going to stop sharing my video. I'm going to go on mute and I'm going to share I'm going to do the introduction and then I'll promote her. Or if Brandon Rawlings, if you can find her and promote Jill, that would be great. So I'm turning my video off. Welcome everyone. You should be seeing our presentation for today, the opening slide. Jill, that would be great. Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Okay, thank you. All right, so welcome to our first ever Teen Town Hall. My name is Kate Barrow. I'm going to be your facilitator today. We decided to do this because we know that young people in our communities have been facing new challenges on top of some of just the life changes that they're going through as they are growing up, becoming adults. This is part of the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Abuse Services events and community engagement. So welcome everyone. I'm going to go to the next slide, and this is just a way that you can stay connected with our division and department. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Recently learned that young people no longer use hashtags, so if you use the keywords Teen Town Hall 2021, Youth Mental Health, and Youth Mental Health Matters in your social media posts, that will allow us to follow your conversation on what you feel is important for young people to know and some of your feedback about this event. Our agenda for today, we're going to do a welcome and introductions. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about creating a brave space before we get to those introductions, and then we're going to have our roundtable discussion. We want to encourage our youth who are attending to interact with each other, interact with our panelists, and really make sure that you're sharing your story as well. This is as much for you as it is part of our panelist discussion. So thank you for being here. So what exactly are we talking about when we say create a brave space? So first, we want to make sure that as adults and people who support our youth and our communities, that we are taking an active listening role, that we are listening to understand rather than listening to respond. So today we really, as adults and professionals, parents and caregivers, we really invite you to listen rather than respond to what our young people are saying. And we invite our young people who are participating to respond and to be engaged with each other. You know, number two, for creating a brave space, engage in self-awareness and self-care. If you find yourself uncomfortable, you need to reach out. We do have clinicians. Moya and Rachel are here to help support you. We also have youth peers who are monitoring the chat here in WebEx as well as on social media and Facebook. So if you need to talk with somebody, feel free to reach out and we'll make sure to get you the resources that you need. This is a judgment-free conversation. A lot of us have lived experience either with mental health, with developmental disabilities, or even some substance use disorders. And that's okay. And we're here to hear about the stories, the experience, and we want to approach this from a judgment-free perspective. Everybody's experience is valid, and we're here to validate those experiences as adults for our youth. If you need to ask for help, it's okay to ask for help. Asking for help is incredibly brave. Some of our young people who are our panelists today are people who have asked for help before, and it's a very empowering thing to do. And if you need to ask for help, we want you to know that it's a brave thing to do as well. So I'm going to stop sharing the slides right now. And I'm going to turn it over to Kyle Reese. I'm going to ask him to say a few words about resiliency, and then we'll turn it over to Deputy Secretary Kinsley.
Thank you, Rachel. Sorry, Kate. My name is Kyle Reese. I am the youth coordinator for North Carolina Families United and Youth Move North Carolina. Youth Move is a youth advocacy organization that works across the country, but specifically, we have a chapter in North Carolina where we believe in youth advocacy and ensuring that young people, such as the people on this panel, have an opportunity to share their lived experiences. I was asked to, speak a little bit about resiliency, and I think, over the past year, we have seen a lot of changes in our country and across the world. And I think a lot of times young people look to adults for the answers. We think that everything can be solved by looking at the people in charge, and that they will know what's going on. But over the past year, it's been kind of clear that no one knows all the answers at this point, and we're in a lot of ways making it up as we go along, and trying to figure out the best solutions. One of the things that I've seen in my work as a youth advocate is that young people, in many ways, are some of the most resilient people that are in the country. And what that means is that when faced with all the challenges that we've all been faced with, that young people have been able to adapt. They've been able to adapt the way that they work, the way that they live. They are going to school online some of the time, going to school in person for some of them. Other parts of the time, they are forced not to see their friends in person, and are and doing it without without asking. Obviously it's great to ask questions, but they're doing it and not complaining about it. I think a lot of times we see even adults not doing what they're asked to do. They're um, putting up a little bit of a fight, and it's unfortunate because we oftentimes look to the adults for the answers and the guidance. And I think when we look back at this time period, it's important to look at what young people have done in this country, in order to adapt, and to see that as a role model for how we should all live. When we're asked by the people in charge to do something, that we that we do what we are asked, and when faced with many challenges and many trials and tribulations, as we all have gone through, that young people have been able to get through it emotionally, and when they needed support, they reached out to those who can provide it. And so that's what resiliency means to me. And I think it's a great example of what all of you have done over the last year, of what we should all do, in terms of making sure that we, as a country and as just a world community, move forward with everything that's going on. So thank you.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Secretary Kinsley.
Thanks so much, Kate. And thanks, Kyle, for opening us up with that. It was really great to hear your perspective. And something that you shared really struck a chord with me. This point about how sometimes it feels like someone knows the answer and we look to those folks for the answer. And I can say from my own personal experience, this year has been a year that has reminded me that there are a lot of answers that we don't know. And living in a time when there is so much happening that is really hard to put and answer to can be really, really difficult. And I remember this past April when the pandemic was really starting to pick up, and there were so many questions about what did this mean and how would we change things and what should we do and what was the right thing to do. And at some point, I remember I was at work at the time, and I just kind of laid down on the ground and took a deep breath, and I was like, I don't know. And I had a lot of people that I work with, great folks like Kate and Brandon and others, and people looking to me for direction and guidance, and folks in our state wondering what we were going to do. And I think in that moment, the best thing I could do was say, I don't know. And the second best thing that I could do was to reach out to folks and ask for help. And I remember calling my partner actually and asking him, what in the world are we going to do? I don't know if I can make it. And that was a really empowering moment for me because I felt like I could be confident enough to be that vulnerable and that open about how I felt. And his response to me in that moment, and the response of my team members like Kate and others say, we all don't know it right now, but we're going to get through this together, and that's what matters. And so I'm really happy that we're all here together to continue that kind of conversation today, to understand that, frankly, there's far more out there that none of us know than what we do know. And for as much as life is about learning what someone else has already figured out, it's also very much about learning what is our own truth? How will we move through the world? What works for us as individuals? When I was growing up, my father used to constantly say to me, I know what you're thinking. I've been in your shoes before. And that would drive me crazy. I would be so frustrated because I was different than my dad. And as I look back in moments, there were times when, he was actually very right. He did know kind of where I was headed because his experience was shaped and had some insight into what I could do. But there were other times where, no, it was actually very different. And the joy of life is figuring out those things as we move through the world in our own time. So I can't emphasize enough Kate's opening about let's make this space brave. Let's be open with each other. Let's reach out and be helpful. I have a great job. I love my work. I get to work with folks all across the state to try to think about how do we want our state to function from a perspective of mental health, from developmental disabilities. How do we want to create a space where everyone belongs? People often think of government as something that is over there and outside, but government's role is really to do what you want us to do collectively as people, to decide how we want our society to function and then to implement that, to make that happen, to organize our schools, our businesses, our work, to fund things, to pay for things that we want society to be about in this good life of ours. And together we're in this really hard moment, and we're all working really hard together to figure out what it's going to be like on the other side. And what I'm hoping for to get out of today is to learn from all of you about what we need to get from this experience together. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for allowing me to be in this space a little bit. I'm going to sit back and listen, but hope to learn and answer questions that are directed to me, and really appreciate everyone's time. So thank you.
So Lauren, maybe you could start us off just telling us a little bit about yourself and the things you like, the things that bring you joy, and maybe some of the things that you've been going through right now through this last year with the pandemic.
Absolutely. So my name is Lauren, or Ren, whatever is easier. And things that I like Flyers hockey. So I'm happy that we have a season this year. I like coffee. I like reading. I love psychology and learning more about mental health. I'm really interested in trauma and resiliency and personality development, especially in underrepresented communities. I'm ready for my senior year to be over. I'm ready to go to college. Some things that I've been going through with the pandemic, I'm very, very extroverted and a very, very social person. So at first I really struggled with just being alone all the time. I mean, even though, you know, you're around your family, it's still not the same as seeing the people that you would see at school all the time. So that was really difficult for me. And I mean, you know, you can call people, you can FaceTime people, you can text, you can do all that stuff, but it's not necessarily the same. And so that was really hard for me. I've been able to figure out how to balance being around people that I love and trust to be safe while still, you know, being safe, which has been really great. Being able to have like a few people that you can just see on the regular, hang out with, get coffee or something. That's been really helpful for me personally.
Thank you. Do we have a volunteer to go next? Maybe Siri or Matthew or Elijah?
Sure.
I can go next. Oh, my name is Matthew Marcus. I have hearing loss. I have a cochlear implant in my left ear and a hearing aid in my right ear. And some things I liked about being at home was you could, when you wanted to go to school, you just had to walk a few steps and then you're there. A few things I don't like about it is that, especially for hearing loss kids, the masks are hard to hear people when they're wearing. And when you're 6 feet apart. And for me personally, I like it if before the pandemic, if everybody was an arm's arm's length, yeah. So I could hear them good. But with the max and rumors with double max, it's gonna be harder for hearing loss people to hear people. Yeah.
Thank you, Matthew, so much for sharing that. That's so true. A lot has changed the way we do things. So, Elijah, it looks like you have unmuted yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So thank you for that, Matthew. I just graduated high school a few months back. I'm a freshman student at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. I blurred my background. You would be able to see a sign behind me. But yeah, so it's been super hard for me being that I graduated in this mess. Didn't get to see a lot of my friends. We had a drive-through graduation. Didn't get to get those last goodbyes in, I guess. I am like Lauren. I'm a very big extrovert. I fuel myself off of just being out and about and just getting out. And I know at the start of the pandemic, I learned. Well, it was a reality that I just had to realize. And I tell the story all the time. Every day I would get to school, I was in the car line. I would see people get off the bus and run into the school to the cafeteria. At 12 o'clock when there was lunch and the bell would ring, people would speed out of the classroom, not because they didn't want to learn, not because they wanted to be with their friends, but because that was one of 2 meals they were getting that day was from school. 12,460 children under 18 are food insecure. And so during this pandemic, I started this organization called the Durham Neighbors Free Lunch Initiative that basically was to help houseless folks, help food insecure folks, help people my age, help my neighbors, and that's why it's called Durham Neighbors. And so serving that every day and still going on, serving that, I got to see food insecure people, and I got to say, that was me once upon a time. That was me many months ago. House insecure people. I got to say, that was me once upon a time. And so this whole pandemic, I guess, I've gotten a chance to just speak to people that were like me, that are like me, and just give a helping hand.
Thank you, Elijah. That's incredible. George, I see your hand up. Please absolutely share.
Hello, my name is George. I'm 13 years old in the 7th grade, and I have autism, so I might repeat or pause a lot in my sentences. And yeah, this pandemic has changed a lot for me. Yeah, and how I do my certain things in my daily life, that has changed tremendously since March 2020. And and I don't know why, but apparently I'm getting so used to it now. And I do want to go back to in-person school. And and probably because of this virtual learning, I have more missing assignments, and it would just be better for me learning in person. I mean, people at my school are going in person, though though my mom wanted me to stay at home learning for health issues, and I agreed with that. I do really want this to end soon, and yeah.
I feel like that's really, really relatable that we all want this to end really, really soon. Siri, I see you have unmuted now. Thank you.
Yeah, so my name is Siri, and I am a junior in high school right now. And some of the things that I like to do is I love playing soccer. I play for a club, and that's often like through this pandemic how I've kind of tried and got that kind of socialization aspect, especially because school was shut down and stuff like that. I also love to travel and kind of get involved with a lot of new things and try new things. I would say, like, for the pandemic, some of the biggest things that kind of impacted me were definitely like the social kind of isolation kind of thing that Lauren was talking about, not being able to meet your friends and stuff like that. It kind of made me realize how valuable like those relationships are with your friends at school and just kind of meeting people at school every day. And then the other big thing I feel like was kind of motivation to like get your schoolwork done and like kind of pay attention in class. It was a way different dynamic trying to attend class for like 6 hours a day on your computer and then do homework afterwards. And I think kind of adapting to that and learning how to figure out how you want to handle your time with that and how you want to kind of still plan stuff that you like to do outside of the computer. And so just kind of learning how to do that and just kind of reworking my schedule was something that I had to figure out in the first couple months.
I just want to chime in and say that I so appreciate everybody sharing. And something that strikes me is, we've all been through this period of adjustment, and there are things that we want to go back to that we miss. But I'm also kind of curious, and some folks touched on some of these. I think Matthew, you pointed out that like, you get to just walk into the other room for school. I mean, I'm wearing sweatpants right now. Like I didn't have to do anything below the bottom of the screen, and life can be easy in that way, to be comfortable. So I'm curious what some folks think about what are some of the positive things that have come. What have we learned about ourselves or about the way we like to be as we've adjusted in this very interesting time?
One thing that I started to see as a positive, especially among a lot of my friends who might have been taking a lot of really stressful classes or stuff like that, right at the beginning of the lockdown, despite like all the uncertainty and all like the fear around it, there were some people, some friends of mine that were finally forced to slow down, who might have been like workaholics beforehand, and they had to stop. they didn't really have a choice. And so even though that probably wasn't the best way to achieve that kind of slowdown, I think definitely like some people started, almost taking it as a vacation, like a stay-at-home vacation, and just like sleeping in, catching up on sleep, catching up on a book or a TV show, and just taking that time for themselves. So, like I said, there probably are better ways to achieve that, but I think that some people really benefited from the first few weeks of just not stressing over work or anything.
I think a benefit for me, and thanks, Lauren. I think like a benefit for everybody actually. It's like this pandemic has served, and online learning has served as a resume builder. Time management is a big one. So we've had to learn how to manage our time. Teamwork, working with your whole family and or my roommate to get the internet working, to get my computer working. Things like that. I still have to go to class sometimes, and so sprinting across, I have an online class and I have to sprint across campus to get to my next class and things like that. And so it's just taught me, it has helped me with my time management, how to make a calendar, how to use Google Suite, things like that. And so all the other young people on this call, it's serving as a resume builder. It's helping us in very big ways.
Professional resume advice from Elijah. Ryan, I'm curious what you think about this, and I want folks to get to know you a bit too.
Well, hi, my name is Ryan. I'm 19. I also go to UNCG technically. I took a break because Corona was kicking my butt and I still had to pay the rent. So this whole thing, like positively, like I've really unlike the people Lauren was talking about, like I'm a workaholic anyway. Like I work all the time, hard as heck, like it's nonstop with me. But like I'm always like burning myself out, never having time to like when I come home to like actually rest, like to be with my dog, to be with my cat, to like read a book, just to listen to music and sit. Like I never had time because there was always something else, and no like downtime. And like being here, like I'm an introvert, unlike y'all too. Like I enjoy my peace, but being surrounded by so many people all the time, nonstop, was so exhausting. So like again, being in the house all the time, when I have the free time, like having actual free time to sit and think to myself, like rummage through these thoughts and sort them out and be at peace and like, just do things I enjoy. It's really been a good inner soul searching soother, like kind of thing. I don't know. But yeah.
So I apologize for interrupting real quick. We need to do an interpreter transition. All right, so now we have the interpreter transition. Sorry, thank you, y'all.
Thanks, Brandon. That's great. And thanks, Ryan. I appreciate you sharing. And I appreciate you sharing about kind of, we've all had to make choices right now about self-care, right? We have to trade off between things to make sure that we're, doing what's right for us. And that's good. And I was curious, Siri, you mentioned about your love of soccer and it's really cold outside. Do you play soccer when it's this cold right now, or will you wait till it warms up?
Yeah, we do play right now. It's like usually we play as long as it's not freezing or like it's not the grounds are so wet that like, it's not working out. But we have been playing soccer since August, kind of since it like opened up again. And we have had to make some adjustments with COVID and stuff, like trying to, like some of the tournaments that we really wanted to go to got canceled and and we had to like kind of deal with that. But we are playing soccer, so it's a good thing.
Yeah, and another good thing about when we were at home is like last year, like 2019, I mean 2 years ago, it feels like it's only been one, but in 2019 when we were at school, it was like we might close down, you're only going to be home for 2 weeks, but we've been home this whole time. And now we everyone's like settling down, knowing this is the way it's going to be. And then when people go back to school, it's going to get because when we were at home, you didn't have to wear uniforms. But when you come back to school, you have to like do all these stuff. Like for people that like don't come to some of the live meetings, or like turn the cameras off, they will have to do it. So it takes a load off when you don't even have to see the teacher all day if you don't or want to, because you can do whatever you want to do at there's nobody there to like you have to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody expected this to happen. Yeah, we all expected it to go by the end of July, but then it just went on. Yeah, honestly, nobody expected this. However, there is this benefit that I am lucky to have that sadly not much people have access to, and that is different kinds of technology. Yeah, in my third period, I can get on my iPad and do my class there, and then the other periods I get on here, and yeah, I think it's a treasure to me to have this technology, and yeah, sadly not all these kids do.
George, I think that's such a good point. And I think that, we've, the way we've adapted quickly to this has leaned so heavily on technology. And there's a lot of folks across our state and across our nation that don't have either the equipment or the connection. And I think, Elijah, you were talking about just internet trouble at home and those sorts of things. It's been hard to adapt for many folks. I'm curious if others have had those sorts of issues or know of folks with those sorts of issues.
Not necessarily in my personal experience, but my best friend is narcoleptic, and she is a student at UNC Chapel Hill now. So for her, she does get Zoom burnout a lot, as I'm sure just about everyone does. But for her, it can be beneficial to have like less commute time between classes to take like a 15-minute nap or to just chill for a minute, because when you're narcoleptic, to anyone who doesn't know, it basically means you are incredibly sleepy all the time and you could go to sleep at any moment. It's a very, very simplified definition of it, but for her, it's been a little bit more accessible actually. While some of her friends who might be hard of hearing or have perhaps like dyslexia and they can't necessarily read all these pages of work on the computer, they need it read to them, like it's been less accessible. So it really goes to show how much of a spectrum accessibility is. It might be significantly easier for you to learn online, but you might not have the right kind of Wi-Fi or the right kind of technology. You might have all that technology and be completely unmotivated to learn or unable to learn. I know a lot of people, like a lot of my close friends, have ADHD, and I've heard a million different experiences from them. Some of them have found it significantly easier to focus in the comfort of the room. They like it more. They would do it every year if they could. Others are like, I don't have the capacity to focus on a Zoom meeting when I have the internet at my fingertips, which is totally understandable too. So unfortunately, like everything for this pandemic, there's no one size fits all answer for how people have, dealt with the accessibility of virtual stuff and COVID. But I think it's just good to listen to everyone's experience. And, when it is a personal thing, when it's a personal meeting or a smaller class, I think it's important to get everyone's opinion and everyone's comfort zone down so that you can make it as accessible as you can for everyone.
And I think something else that came out of using technology so much and like having technology be kind of that middle factor that, not everyone can control and doesn't always work out for you is that I think a lot of people learn how to be more flexible. Like, hey, you join like your class 10 minutes late, you know what? It's like, okay, like it's not the end of the world kind of thing. Like, I think a lot of people realize that small things aren't as big as they think they are, and that it's okay if you're like a few minutes late or that, you couldn't get to class that day because your internet wasn't out, but like you can just kind of reach out to your teacher and figure out a different way to do it. So I think that was definitely a good thing that came out, and just kind of utilizing all the resources you have and trying to really figure out what works for you with the technology. So.
I really love the points about I wrote down, there's no one size that fits all. And I think the flexibility piece and something that for me that's made this so hard is, when we're trying to in the work that we do, when we're trying to change and move things, we have to try to figure out what is the one thing to do for the whole state from a policy perspective or something. And I jokingly say sometimes that my job is to make everybody unhappy equally, to try to find that middle ground between things. But it's really hard. And I think that the perspective I'm hearing from many of you is that flexibility and that, treating everyone as a unique person is so important. And so I appreciate you reinforcing that for me. I'm curious, as we kind of continue to think about this, what have been some of the feelings folks have had? I know we've talked about like what has been good and what has been bad. And I talked earlier about just feeling kind of exasperated and tired and stressed. Um, but curious what feelings folks have been having in all of this, if you're willing to and comfortable sharing.
I think I speak for everyone when I say frustration. When, we had talked earlier when Kyle had been talking about resiliency of not seeing everyone do the right thing is very upsetting because, we're all at a point in our lives where a lot of us are at kind of that transition age where we're kind of on the brink of adulthood or on the brink of a new career or something like that. And having that held off or taken away completely because some people want to be difficult, that's really frustrating. And also realizing that like you could do everything in the world, but you can't change another person's mind if they aren't willing to change that. It's really frustrating. And also just it can burn you out a lot too, to just, you can be doing everything you can. And the fact is, like, you might still have to go to your job where, you have to be in contact with people. I'm a barista and I love it. Don't get me wrong. But, unfortunately, it gets crowded sometimes. There are a lot of people. People have to take their masks down to eat or drink. And, at some point, it burns you out to be doing what you can and still not seeing other people do that, or just not having things the way that you have been adapted to have them your entire life is really stressful. You can't really look to anyone for advice on it. When I was doing my college applications, I was talking to my best friend who's a few years older than me, and I was like, what do I do? And she's just like, I don't know, you know, a lot of uncertainty to the point where you just don't really have any expectations at all anymore because, you know, whatever you expect is just going to be changed somehow.
I agree with a lot of things said by Lauren. And yeah, all this has happened to me and everyone else. This is our life now. Yeah, apparently wearing masks everywhere when you're going in person, and if you're not wearing masks, you have to social distance, which is probably even more hard. You know, I thought when we were going to school, I thought I thought all we had to do was just wear a mask while going to school, but apparently that wasn't the case, and apparently it's more complex than that and way more different than school 2019 and before. Yeah, this is our life now, and apparently we have to get used to it. Well, and yeah, there are some good things that happen in this time, you're at times you're really happy to have gotten an assignment done, and this pandemic has impacted the way I work, I my schoolwork, and yeah, it has brought my grades down a bit, to be honest. But there are good and bad things happening in this pandemic, and just wanted to say that.
Yeah, especially with hearing loss people, the closed captions, sometimes the closed captions is not on like Zoom. And it's on it, but and people have to type. And when I did that one time, it um it was bad because like somebody had to type up all the closed captions whenever somebody talked. But Google Meet is like it has automated closed captions and stuff, and it's just hard to hear the teacher, and especially like and closed caption on Google Meet is not the best thing, but it's like something.
Can I
I can
also
definitely
say,
say. Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I'm hearing everything you all are saying, but also there are a lot of people in the chat that are making some really good points. Is there any way for them to be able to speak and say? Because I'm like, I would like literally just take what they're saying and like say it for them, but like this is their voice. This is for them. So like,
I'm really glad that you asked that, Ryan. If Cody is okay with doing that and you all are okay, I can unmute folks. So if you'd like, there are some amazing comments in the chat. So if you raise your hand, it should be the hand icon right above the chat. I will unmute you and I invite you all to speak and share. Letitia, you are unmuted.
Okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Letitia, but I go by Abby. I am a 15-year-old girl. I will be turning 16 this coming March. I'm a sophomore in high school. And I would say before all this pandemic had happened, like my 7th grade year in middle school, I used to be really social and I was like a social person. But then, like, as soon as I hit my 8th grade to 9th grade year, I just stopped being social. And it's like till this day, even with this pandemic going on, it's hard for me to even talk to my friends. And my friends like, do you want to be on the phone? I'm like, I don't know. They're like, why don't you want to talk to me? I was like, it's not the point that I don't want to talk to you. It's just hard because, you know, I have like a learning disability and a chromosome disorder. Plus, I go through bad depression. So it's kind of hard for me to, stay social. And, I would say in a way I kind of like this doing school at home. I mean, I kind of understand the fact that, doing school at home, I mean, it can be hard because, like, when you're at home, it's supposed to be your cozy time, your free time, your relaxed time away from school and the drama and everything else. So it's kind of been hard for me too, but I kind of like it more at home because that way you ain't gotta worry when you're at school, like what's going on at home, is everything okay and everything else. Like my biggest fear when I go to school, I be worried. Like I'll do my schoolwork, but I'll be like, is everything okay at home? Like I hope everything's okay. I hope nothing bad happens to my mom. I kind of worry a lot, but I would say just doing this online school at home out. Um, it's more easier. But one thing I don't understand is that when I would go to like when I be inside at school, it'd be like 3:15, and that's when we will get done like regular school. But now with this Zoom thing and online classes, I get done at 1:45. So my teacher's like, keep working, this and that. I'm like, okay, but you want us to keep working, but why can't we go to the full-fledged time how we used to be when we were in regular school? And I would also say this, for the people who are failing in their classes or grades, you know, all it matters is that you put your effort into it. At the end of the day, that's the only thing that should really count. As long as you're showing your effort, they should still kind of give you a good grade based on your effort, because it's not really about you doing the work or like not understanding it. All it matters is that you just try your best. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. There are so many hands raised, and so we want to take some time to hear you all. Evan, I see you. I'm going to go to Evan next, and then we'll jump back up to Jocelyn because Evan's been asking to unmute for quite a while. So one moment, Evan, you're going to be unmuted. All right, you're unmuted.
How y'all doing on this fine morning? I want to start off by saying when the pandemic first hit back in March, we were all quarantined in our houses and school sort of went as planned. We had our virtual classes. There was some sort of structure. We could stay behind and ask questions after the meetings were over, usually after everybody left. And we had them at different points in the day. So if you were to miss a class, you could either watch the recording or just get up early enough to not miss your first class. And that was the only sense of structure that we have. Now, this new semester, that was just completely blown out of the water. My school completely stopped doing virtual meetings on the days that we do not have school. And that messed with my schedule because then I have ADHD. My mind wanders like no other. So when you've got all these different things that seem more intriguing than the task at hand, it makes it extremely difficult to sit down and focus on what you're supposed to be doing. And subjects such as math, they get extremely just complex for no reason. They throw these different logarithms, polynomials, equations at you, and they expect you to sit down and learn it with only 2 days a week of instruction, but each day is something different. We cannot. I have not sat down and learned a concept over the course of more than one day since 8th grade. I'm a sophomore. This makes no sense. Why is everything so rushed? I understand that my school works on a semester basis, so they have to get through all these common core concepts before time runs out. And then if it's on the exam, and if then we miss it because we don't know what we're doing, that reflects poorly on the teacher. But what I also don't understand is why there's not more opportunities to get the help that you need. Not everybody's great at math. And they kind of just saying, oh yeah, do this, but watch a recording from another teacher in another state. Yeah, do that. Watch this ed puzzle and complete these problems inside. Yep. There's a disconnect there. Why?
Yeah, I just want to validate that. It sounds like there's a lot of comments in the chat that there's a disconnect that's happening because we aren't in an in-person situation. I'm not sure if Evan's
So
audio.
now we don't have that virtual schedule. We don't have that structure anymore. So you kind of just start to give up on certain subjects that you can just let them slip by and get the grade. I understand what she said, something about as long as you put in the effort, you can put in effort and still fail. And that reflects poorly on the numbers that they send to the state to say, oh yeah, this kid did bad in school, so now he's got this on his report card. He got to show this to his parents, even though he's trying. It doesn't reflect. You can try your hardest and still fail a class, and the teacher can't really give you extra points if you didn't earn the extra points. That just be out of whack. It's been extremely stressful trying to keep the grades up while also finding the internal motivation to keep pumping out good quality work without just kind of slacking and doing the bare minimum, because that's really all I feel like I can give.
I would also add that a lot of times I don't think that educators or counselors or the state or whoever is, overseeing and, reflecting on you based on your grades don't understand that stress isn't just a quote unquote all in your head thing. It's not just something that you experience when you're, you have butterflies in your stomach. It is a very chronic thing in our world. I think the numbers right now say that around 50% of our generation have some kind of, anxiety-based disorder or something along those lines, which is awful. But when you think about it, it's more than just feeling nervous when, you meet strangers. Anxiety, especially when it gets very strong, can turn your brain to kind of fight or flight mode all the time. Be it a result of poverty or trauma or anything like that. And so, no matter how smart you are, no matter how much effort you do truly want to put in, a lot of times because of stress and trauma and anxiety, your brain might not have that kind of capacity to, actually reflect that. You might care about a subject more than anything. You might love it, but if you are focused on where your next meal is going to come from because you don't have school lunch, if you are focused on like, oh, I have to use the car to get to my job, but my brother needs it for practice, if you're focused on, if I don't make a good grade in this class, I'm not going to get into a college, I'm not going to get a degree. If your brain is so focused on other things, then it's not going to have the capacity to do well. And so I feel like it's just a constant cycle of stress and anxiety. You know, you don't have good grades because you're stressed because you don't have good grades. And I don't think a lot of people that are teaching us or, you know, assigning us these grades have that kind of understanding, because it is a fairly new understanding of how stress manifests. It's no longer just something that you feel when you meet new people or you're about to give a presentation. We've come to the understanding that it is a chronic, holistic problem in people's lives. It affects every part of their life. So
I want to go back to the Cody's original question. What are you feeling right now? And then I want to refer to Evan and Lauren. I'm feeling, and it's quite the opposite of Lauren, for a good reason though. I'm feeling, of course, scared every day as to what could happen, but I'm also feeling optimistic because of the fact that this is a wake-up call. This whole process, this whole pandemic has been a wake-up call for our state legislators, our state administrators, our school administrators, our district administrators. It's a wake-up call because of the fact it's saying that there needs to be more resources in and outside the school. There needs to be more, resources for transportation, for folks that don't learn the same. There needs to be more guidance counselors. There needs to be more resources regarding technology and people who don't have access to technology. More transportation resources, more food resources. And so I think it's a wake-up call in the hardest way possible, very heavy-handed, but I think it's definitely a wake-up call because I do agree with Evan. I'm trying my hardest in several of my classes right now, and I just feel like I never have time. I'm in Zoom all day. Someone mentioned burnout comes very quickly. Zoom all day, doing work to pay for school to get good grades and things like that. And so it's just so time consuming. And like I mentioned earlier, internet goes in and out all the time between buildings, and so it's not like I can just get on my phone and say, okay, I have to walk to this building now and just get on a quick Zoom call. It's much more harder than that, and so I definitely think this serves as a wake up call to people in charge, I guess, that there needs to be more help and more assistance and more resources.
I can make connections to all of these people. I can be really stressed out, yet very confident in my work. Sometimes you're better at some subjects than others. For example, you're very good at math, yet not very good at English arts, and then it's the opposite for some other people, and then yeah, we're all special in our own ways, and yeah, I'm that type of person because, and yeah, that's probably why I'm doing good in some classes while doing bad in some others. I've always Yeah, that has given me a lot of anxiety because of that reason, really. Like like, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to say that George, great points. Elijah, um, dang, I wish I had written it down, but I was trying to agree with something you said. It's escaped me now. But I was gonna comment on like everything that everyone from like the group chat is saying, and then what the few people who spoke. Sorry, alarm. um, what they were saying, basically, it sounds like everyone's under the agreement that this is much larger than Gilbert County Department of Social Services. This is more than foster youth or youth and substitute care or youth in general. This is bigger than us. This is bigger than the adults that we look to. This is with the education system in general, because a lot of the concerns that I'm hearing are based on learning styles not being catered to, considerations of outside stressors. Now we're in the home, we're not in a structured environment where we're enforced to learn, and learning is enforced. Like, home is our free space, and it's like homework. Some people viewed it as optional, some people didn't. Some people felt, because this is my home, this is my relaxation space, work and other things invading it is not, it's not conducive to success. I'm hearing a lot of, I'm reading a lot of that, I'm seeing a lot of that. I lived that, which is why I had to stop. And so what my concern is, like, we're all talking about it, right? We're all under the same understanding that this is a problem. What are we going to do to fix it? Because yes, we can. I took the opportunity to write a letter, like write a few letters, but like after that, then what? Like, this needs to be something that's being changed, because again, this is not just us. This is you know, school issue. And then also, there's so much going on outside of our home. Like, it's that kind of stress as well. So it's just like, we're at this point, and I don't see this ending anytime soon, because even once the unspoken virus name goes away, like, we're still going to have to continue some safety features that we have in place, and I'm sure it's going to affect quite a few generations afterwards. So, like, and I don't think the world is going to magically get better in 2 generations or so. This is going to affect quite a few people, and now it's going to affect how we, like, raise our children, like the people who decide to have children, because at this point, but like, yeah, so the conversation is bigger than us. How are we going to change this? Like, because we all agree that this is an issue. So we're talking, but let's action.
Ryan, thank you for that. And I just want to reflect for a moment. And first, maybe point out, I know it's 11:30. We had planned for this to be an hour, but I'm willing to stay on for a bit. And I think that Kate is willing for us to continue the conversation. I invite any of our panelists to stay here as long as they're willing. I know folks have obligations, and for folks that are logged in, we're going to keep the conversation going, and we'll go back to the chat here in just a moment to let more folks continue to share. But I just want to reflect for a moment on when folks responded to this question about how they're feeling, and people were talking about things. I wrote down optimistic, scared, distracted, burned out, frustrated, confident, uncertain, worried, happy, rushed, pressured, anxiety, and stress. And I heard, that's heavy, and that's real. And I think I have felt all of those sometimes at the same time and different times, and it's so complicated. But what makes me feel really good is hearing so many other folks say they felt the same thing. And I was just really taken aback with knowing that I'm not alone in that, and also hearing that. I mean, just so impressed with folks that immediately in the conversation here went from, how is this a wake-up call to folks? How are these things all connected? How can we worry about this, but then also do this at the same time? And then how do we make that change? And what I can tell you is that there are a lot of folks that, don't get nearly as far or nearly as thoughtful as what is just so clearly intuitive to everybody that's sharing today. And that is incredibly powerful. And it means a lot for me to hear it. So thank you so much. And I want to keep hearing folks. So let's maybe Kate, whoever you think is next.
So Jocelyn, I think, has had some good, everybody's had really good comments. I want to get to everybody else. Jocelyn, we'll go to you next, and then we'll go to Amanda and Abby and Evan. If you all would like to share again, you can, or if you'd like to put your hand down if you're done, we'll get to you too, but let's go to Jocelyn next. Jocelyn, you're unmuted. We may have some audio issues. Are you there, Jocelyn? Okay. All right, let's go to Amanda and we'll come back to Jocelyn.
Oh.
All right, Amanda, you're
Hi.
unmuted.
You guys hear me?
Hi. We sure
Hi.
can.
So the big thing of crap, I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, so it's like the whole thing of being online, it all sucks because there's no structure at all. And I can't function without structure. And so everything for me goes blank. I can stare at the computer screen for like hours and just not be able to do the work. And even when I'm motivated and I want to do the work, I get like a mental block and then my body just kind of like stops and I physically cannot do anything. So like I've got like ADHD, anxiety, depression, autism. Those are the main things that affect me. And it's really hard to have stuff accessible to me. And it's like you constantly have to prove that you're still disabled and that you're not faking it. And that's really upsetting. And then the adults at school and at home, and they're just really condescending and they act like you're a problem. And it's really upsetting and it really affects my self-esteem. Yeah, there's all of that. I also forgot what else I was gonna talk about. I'm gonna look at that. Yeah, all this. Yeah, that's mainly the stuff I wanted to say, but also it kind of upsets me when people keep talking about the good because it doesn't feel like there is any good. Because like you log on, stare at the computer screen for hours, and you still have all this work to do, and it's like you work day and night. You have no time for anything else. And I can take breaks, but it still won't help me get more work done later. And then there's just like all this stuff you have to do. And I've got 2 college classes on top of my high school classes, and it's hard to get everything done in time, and it's very stressful, and it's like it's no one. It feels like no one's on my side, and it's hard to trust adults because they're when very condescending and they care more about grades than they do you, and it feels like with their tone of voice and their facial expressions, I can very easily tell that they don't care that much, that they're just fake being nice. If anyone else understands what I mean with that. But yeah,
Totally
all that.
agree with that. I feel like the teachers are they in a less aggressive sort of way, or actually a passive aggressive sort of way, trying to make it seem like we're the problem. This is you are my student, therefore you do whatever I tell you to in the time that I give you with no exception. Or else you'll fail my class. That's how it's been since school started. Since that one guy decided to say, hey, let's make a school. He said, oh yeah, you should do that. Make it this way. But that doesn't work anymore. There just needs to be some sort of change given and made in the school system with the just standardized test, common core. They all need to be revamped to something that's actually going to benefit them. But there's also drawbacks to that because teachers have their own stresses, their own problems, their own issues that they have to deal with. And then they have to come up in front of the class and act like everything's fine and dandy when it's not. I feel like if people could just be more honest, we would I wholeheartedly believe that people would be more sympathetic and be more open to some changes if we would just be honest and just kind of just alleviate the fake, come up, say what you got to say, and then if you can do better and you can change it, then just do better. If you're giving the best that you can and you still feel bad, then that's it's a tough thing to deal with, but you have to do it. Just think the end result. I want to work at Nintendo. I got to get through high school. I got to get through this early middle college program to potentially get my seat at a major company. I'm gonna have to put this work in if I'm gonna get there. There's no exceptions. They're not gonna accept the average Joe Blow. They want somebody who's above average and can do and work in high demand. So, with all that being said, yes, it sucks. Everybody and their grandmama know it sucks. But think of the end result. And if you don't know what you want to be in life, might want to figure that out.
Hey, Evan, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I really appreciated your point about kind of sympathy and empathy, right? You kind of I think what I heard, to and tell me if I misheard it, but what I heard was that it can be really frustrating with the expectations teachers and maybe adults in our lives put on us, or that we put on each other, but that you really quickly went to this place of understanding that those expectations are on people too, and how we come at each other with that expectation, those filters that we see each other, that empathy and understanding can be a way to break through that. And I'm first curious, is that kind of what I heard you say? I just want to make sure I'm repeating it back.
Breaking those barriers, just kind of just get a more intricate relationship with the teacher than just saying, yeah, she teaches earth environmental science. I don't like her because she assigns a lot of work. That's it. That's all we know. Every single time I hear somebody saying something about a teacher, it's never their personality. It's always, oh, she assigns a lot of work. Oh, that teacher easy, man. You're gonna pass that class. It's just we hardly know the people we see every day.
So I guess that's a good opener to the other question I had for everyone, is how do we use empathy? It feels like empathy is really powerful, to your point, Evan. How do we use empathy to get to know folks? How do we be honest with each other and understand where folks are coming from, just at the same rate that we're reacting to things we're experiencing?
Just be honest. That's the only thing I can think of. No matter it, because everybody's got their struggles. Everybody's going through something. And if you're not going through anything, get ready because it's coming. and just, yeah, it may not reflect well on it may not reflect well on your report card or the progress report, but at least you know that you were able to just have a deeper relationship with the people who are feeding you your education and taking time out of their day, spending time to get their own education so they could teach you what they spent so long learning. Just, yeah.
I like that you said that. So my mom is an educator at an elementary school, and then my other mother figure is an educator at a preschool, and they are both single parents. My mom, even when we were, battling housing insecurity and transportation insecurity, she went to work every day with a smile on her face. And so I like that you said, try to understand where the teachers are coming from. They don't want to make your lives any harder. They don't want to, uh, make your lives any harder. They don't want to, be the criminals or the mean ones or the villains. And so I like that you said understand where teachers are coming from. But at the same time, I do believe that, and both my moms will speak up for this too, that some teachers should come with the same steady hand and try to understand their students a little bit better. Um, Come with an equity lens, come with an understanding of students' problems, and make themselves available. But I do like that you said that, trying to advocate for my mom. I know she would be happy about that. But yeah, I definitely agree that kind of look at the chats as well. Empathy is key to making sure that everyone is equipped. I like that comment. I like that that comment that you said that empathy is very important to make sure everyone's on the same study, with keeping the same study hand, dealing with each other.
I would strongly agree with the empathy statement too. I feel like right now we live in a world where we are expected to be callously individualistic. It's you can sleep when you're dead, like work your way to the top. Like you're not really told anymore to, work with your friends, work with your peers. Like you guys are all in this together. It's more of a, like you're competing with your peers. I remember sophomore year when colleges were starting to be like on everyone's dashboard. I had teachers literally telling us like, okay, they can only accept so many students from our school. So remember, you're competing with your peers. Like that's just so terrible that, we're not expected to, look at our peers and like, oh, we're on the same side. We're being pitted against each other. And I would say that extends to teachers and counselors. It's important to reinforce to students and, just anyone in the system that we're all on the same page. We're all trying to make a way for ourselves in life. And that doesn't need to be a competition. It doesn't need to be, who can work the hardest, who got the least amount of sleep last night. We're not playing the pain Olympics. We need to have empathy for each other and realize, we're all doing what we can, and that's okay. We don't need to be a CEO. We don't need to be a billionaire. We just need to be comfortable with ourselves. And I feel like a lot of times people forget that teachers might have that same outlook. They aren't there to make you fail. They are there to help you. But a lot of times there's a huge disconnect because, they might be seeing 100 other students that day. They might be seeing stuff at home. And especially in the public school system, it's hard to, send kids home knowing that their home might be a car or their home might not have any food in the fridge. It's a very emotionally taxing job. And students also have a very emotionally taxing job of competing with their peers. So I think that empathy would play a big role in the education system right now, of realizing that we are all on the same page and we all want to get the current students to graduate. We all want to do well on our AP exams. We all want to get into college or to graduate and have a job. You know, it's not, oh, this is a very hard class to pass, so just a heads up. Like, we all need to be aiming for success without trampling on each other.
And I also wanted to say, like, I feel like empathy kind of comes from having some sort of like a base kind of relationship with someone to begin with. And I feel like since we started this online learning, the relationship between like a student and a teacher is like almost like nothing because I mean, we join our class and like no one has their camera on. Like I don't even know, who are the other students in my class. Like, and I don't know what they look like. I don't know their names. Like I would go back to school and I just like wouldn't know who that person was. And I think I think that's another step that if we can kind of try and build a community on, a Google Meet, obviously it's not the best thing, but having, your camera on and like, just knowing the other students in your class and like I have had teachers actually just last week. A teacher was like, please have your camera on so I can kind of read if you guys understand what's going on. We were doing a math problem and she was like, I can usually tell how a student kind of understands the math problem based on their kind of expression and stuff like that. And, it's hard for teachers, I guess, to understand, where different students are. And obviously everyone kind of learns stuff at different paces. And I think, like, I feel like that's always something that, is important to take into consideration. And I think it's been really hard for teachers, but I also think, like, we have to do our part in trying to build a relationship as well. And then the other thing I wanted to kind of talk about was I saw earlier in the chat a lot of people were saying stuff about counselors, like, not being available or counselors, like, not being that kind of relationship that you can depend on. And I think that also kind of stems from the lack of relationship between a student and a counselor, because at least from my experience, like I met my counselor maybe the beginning of my freshman year and probably never saw him again until like we had to, do our schedule changes or something like that. And I think it's hard to go to a counselor and like talk about what you need or talk about what you want when like you don't have that base relationship to begin with them. And I think that also comes from the counselor and student need to develop a relationship to begin with at first, and it's hard to kind of just reach out to counselors and just kind of start that relationship. So
Sometimes you're two different people. Extroverted. Yeah, you have an extroverted personality on one side. You miss school. You want to go back so you can improve in your school time, and the introverted personality, you're really getting along in the pandemic and finding your way. Yeah, I sometimes you'll expect me to be only one of those, and it's really hard to really hard to like determine which one you are in this, because sometimes you don't even know how you're feeling, and I feel like that in this pandemic. Yeah, sometimes I feel a lot of different emotions in one position. Like, l- like I was writing an essay for school, and I was really determined to get it done, afraid that I might procrastinate again, beating myself up for not working on it the other days. I have procrastinated a lot, and very anxious and frustrated. That's the main feeling I was feeling, yet feeling all these other emotions. It sometimes you don't even know how to feel. And I have that certain thing with me.
I totally agree with that, dog. I mean, you on mood switches in between our classes and our social life and our family life, and it all can just come out at one time, and it can sometimes be the worst time ever. It's a major assignment has to be done, and you got a time limit on it, so then you just out here having a breakdown, and this thing is due in 20 minutes. And just the overwhelming emotions that we can feel, that we let consume us, and then we stay in those negative emotions, and then it ultimately takes a toll on our mental health, and then we don't look after our mental health because we're too busy stressing over school, and then our grades start slipping, so then we start stressing about school while not taking care of our mental health, and then we spiral out of control.
I would agree. I think a lot of people, a lot of adults, this is the one thing that I feel like every generation can relate to. Your teenage years, there's nothing constant. Like everything is always changing. Um, like I have friends who are slightly older than me. I have friends who are slightly younger than me. And, we all hit different stages of life at different times, and it's just always changing. So, one thing about like having in-person school before the pandemic, we had a very set routine that even if, stuff like nothing else in our life was constant, you could at least rely on your alarm clock to go off Monday, have to go to school, have to do the classes. Even if you hate them, they're still there. Now, when you put the responsibility of managing your time and getting all these weird new feels for classes on, it's really hard to do that with the fluctuations in mood and stress and everything else that's piled onto your life being in a transitional period of life. So, yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people forget, that there is no constant right now. Um, so yeah, and I also think Jocelyn wanted to talk again. She fixed her headset, so if someone could unmute her.
I can do that. Thank you. Jocelyn, you're unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me this time?
We can.
Great. Okay, so hi, I'm Jocelyn Shutak. I'm 16 and I'm a junior in high school right now. And I have a lot of feelings, pretty much all of them bad. So that's fun. Because of this pandemic, I felt a lot of isolation and being apart from my friends and that kind of stuff, which has made me really sad. So I'm like, I've got sadness, I'm lonely, I'm angry that this happened at all because it could have been prevented if people had paid attention to the intel, but they didn't. So I'm angry about that. So I have all those feelings, and then I feel guilty for having those feelings because I am in a position of privilege because my dad still has his job, I still have my house, I still have all the things, I have internet access, I have all that stuff. So it's like I don't have a right to be upset because so many other people have it a lot worse than I do, and I should just be grateful that I have what I do. So that's a struggle. And on school, I have had a mental breakdown over my AP essay that I have to write for English because it's due on Monday and I'm only like 2/3 of the way done with it, which is that's always fun because you know how College Board is, no exceptions. So that's always really stressful. And I agree so much with what a lot of people have said about school and how stressful it's become because we don't have the relationships that we used to. We don't have that connection between teacher and student. We don't have that stuff to lean on when we need it as much anymore, which I think it was underestimated before, but now we all really know how important it is. So there's that. It's a lot. And I know what's coming out kind of sounds like word vomit right now, but yeah.
Jocelyn, I think your points were really great and definitely struck a chord with me in many ways. And I'm sure others felt that way. And I'd love to hear from folks. One thing that particularly hit me was this tension of how, you know, we hold within ourselves this sense of gratitude for maybe perspective of certain things that are happening in a certain way for us, but then also a dissonance or a disconnect when we're also really frustrated, and this sense of, you know, is that okay? Can we hold all of that at the same time? And it can really feel a bit overwhelming. I know I've felt that way sometimes where you know, things are going a certain way for me, but not certain ways for others, or vice versa. And how do we navigate through that? How do we hold, I think, to Evan's point earlier, that sense of empathy and understanding at the same time when feeling really frustrated? And that sort of tension can be really, really hard.
Yeah.
Have others felt? I'm curious if others on our panel or others in the chat have felt that same sense of how do we navigate through all this at the same time, and how do we make that work?
There's definitely the pressure to pick and choose what you do well in and what you don't right now. And I feel like to a degree that's been true all the time. You know, you decide, like, there's this triangle of, you know, you have your family life, you have your social life, and you have your school life, and you can pick two. Um, but you can't always have all three. It can be really, really hard to excel in school, but still have the time to be around friends and family, or it can be really hard to, you know, have a really healthy social life. You're engaging with the right amount of people for the right amount of time, but also have enough time to do well in school. But now there's even more of, you know, do I pick and choose to hang out with this person so that I don't have like a breakdown because of social isolation? Or do I stay inside because I'm worried about getting COVID? Do I just do more schoolwork that's going to leave me feeling burnt out? There are so many more outcomes now than there were beforehand. Um, so there's definitely an expectation to pick and choose, even in those categories. You know, what class do you choose to do well in because you don't have enough time for all that homework tonight? What friendships do you hold on to because you don't have time to see everyone? Because, you know, we can't be out as much as we were
Yeah.
before.
I mean, I can't be out at all. I
Yeah.
haven't seen my friends in forever. The only time I really go out anymore is for school, because when I was little, I had pneumonia and I have permanent lung scarring because of it. So I'm at risk and I can't be going out to see people.
Right. Yeah, I have friends who have similar issues, and you know, they don't really have that choice. It's been made for them, and that's really stressful. And I have a lot of empathy for them because I can't imagine what that kind of isolation feels like.
Not good.
Yeah, probably not.
I can
Like,
definitely
as much as
see.
I miss people too, it hurts because a lot of the time I don't even feel like I have the energy to text people, because I have a friend who I text a lot,
Mhm.
and I like doing that with her because she's fun and amazing and I love her so much. But I don't have the energy to text her back right now because I'm so stressed about everything else.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you decide what you fill up your energy cup with, you know. 30% of it might be school, 30% of it might be just managing because, you know, a lot of times we see tasks as showering, brushing your teeth, making a meal for yourself as just default, but they do take up energy. Um, to anyone that's familiar with the spoons analogy, you know, you might have the spoons to take a shower and text your friend back, but you might not have the spoons to wash the dishes or get that worksheet done. So it's just more picking and choosing what you're going to do well at or do at all.
That's why I feel a lot of people have just given up on certain subjects because they simply do not have the time. With me, one of the main reasons why I've just completely distanced myself from math is because it takes so long to learn a concept that's just going to change tomorrow. We never sit down and learn each of the concepts in depth to the point we understand it and we can retain the knowledge until the test. So that'll lead you to just floating by using photo math and mathway and using all those softwares that teachers say don't use. Yeah, you're giving us no choice. Y'all act like the teachers act like that's the only class that we have.
Exactly. I hate that so much. Like, oh, it's just a little bit of homework, not when combined with my other classes.
Exactly, and especially if you got college classes that are demanding more than high school classes.
Ooh.
I
And
can definitely speak to that one.
Then you got all of these. Then you got a whole different level. You want to put more effort towards the college classes because that's gonna get you the credits to then excel to get that degree when you graduate. So then you also got to put effort into your high school classes, and depending on how many college classes and how many high school classes you got, you're gonna be drained by the time you get to that last class.
Exactly. Like, I'm barely even have the energy for homework after school, and I still have to do that.
And it
I
still
totally
has
get
to
it.
get done, right? And then, well, it's not done by 11:59, so you don't get no credit. I be just wanting to drop kick some of these people in the throat for that, man.
Yes.
Evan, I can definitely agree with you about the college classes. And I know it's definitely hard with high school and college class, the mixture. But speaking from my experience as a college student, it's definitely super hard to be assigned like 5 papers in 1 week and then being told, okay, it's all you got to get it done by this time. The assignment's locked after that time. Don't ask me for any extensions. It's definitely hard. So
Don't ask me for any extensions.
I definitely understand.
Pop in real quick because I know we've had Justin wanting to share. Justin, did you still want to share? And if we can pull him off mute.
All right, Justin.
Yes, I would like to share.
We can hear you, Justin.
Can you hear me? Well, I'm Justin. I'm 17 and I go to Goldsboro High School. I have a guidance counselor, but with us being in virtual, I don't have that person I can go into every single 2 weeks and talk to about what happened and what's going on and what can she change. And then again, it's like the teachers don't even talk to each other or collab with each other because my teacher, she said that we had class at 10:20, but I have a different class at that same time. So basically, I have to miss her class and get on this other class so that way I can make sure that I get this information. But then the information really doesn't help me at all because then again, the next day they're sending a video that says something totally different. And then they don't virtually chat. And when you ask them for one-on-one, they tell you to figure it out by yourself. But then when you're doing all this work, it piles up on you. And then your family asks, why are you being so antisocial towards us and not trying to hang out with us? It's because I have to choose whether I want to hang out or that I want to finish work. Because if I don't finish my work, I'm gonna fail. And it's like the obligation is that you do have to do your work, but at the same time, your parents are not going to accept the fact that you tried and you're still trying to be with them. So I'm still trying to understand how can I cope with having to be with my family and then having to do my schoolwork, because everybody knows we have those little things that we do, those events and little things that we do after school or during school, and we have to go to those things. So when you have that and you have to do schoolwork, it doesn't kind of tie in with your schedule, and it kind of blows everything off balance. And then you have to add in other things too, so you don't know what to choose.
You know, Justin, thank you so much for that. And a lot of folks have pointed out just how much energy it takes right now to just get through life and everything that's happening. And And I want to acknowledge that earlier, Elijah and Lauren both talked about being extroverts, and that was a source of energy for them, that they kind of got that from other folks. And I think we've all had to think of ways to take care of ourselves and think about how to get energy. And Siri's no longer on right now. I think she had to go, but she talked about soccer as a source of energy for her. And I know for me, I've been walking a lot and playing with my dog. That's a positive source of energy. That's where I refill my cup. My dog, we just started therapy classes with the dog on his way to becoming a therapy dog, and that's been a really positive source for me. And so we are nearing the end of our time. We're going to have to wrap up here because by about 12:15, so we have 4 minutes. But I wanted to just have a little space as we start to wrap for any final words from folks. If you have just a few quick words to share on where you're getting some of your energy from, how you're refilling, how you're taking care of yourself at this time, and then we'll do some final words and wrap up, and we're going to keep this conversation going, and we'll talk about that at the end too. So does anyone want to share some thoughts on how they're taking care of themselves and how they're refilling their energy cups?
Yeah, so Greensboro is beautiful. UNCG is absolutely beautiful. It's hidden away in the woods kind of. I take a lot of bike rides now. Got this amazing foldable bike. My friends think it's the most fascinating thing ever. Been zipping around Greensboro. Sometimes I'm just like do 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 do, and then I look down. I'm like, oh, you're 5 miles away from campus. Do your legs have enough willpower to get back? And so walking, biking. I have 5 dogs, Cody. And although I do miss them, when I go back to Durham, that is definitely an escape. Just chilling with all 5 of them. All of them begging for my attention, cooking, being with friends, things like that. Doing some social distance activities, because everyone mentioned that Zoom burnout is a real thing. I have another Zoom at 12:15, and it goes like that. And so Zoom burnout is a really big thing. So take care of yourself.
Thanks, Elijah. Matthew or Lauren or anybody else wanted to share how they're refilling? You're good, Matthew.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Lauren.
For me, I love to ice skate. So every Friday night I will go ice skating. I used to play hockey, so I just have a really good time there, with a mask on, of course. I really enjoy my job, so sometimes it's refreshing to just get a change of scenery from being at home or being at school and work there. You get to see so many different people, even if it's just for a few minutes, and you get to meet everyone at a different part of their day, and it's great. I love watching hockey. I love reading, so sometimes just going to my bed and reading a good book, or sometimes even just having times where it's just like I'm going to be brain dead for a minute. No one asks me any questions. I'm not going to be able to do it. Just let myself recharge.
Lauren, I think the last big event that I went to was Nationals in Greensboro.
Oh, wow.
For ice skating.
That's awesome.
Not because I know how to ice skate, but because my partner likes it.
Oh, okay.
Well, we are coming to the end of our time together, and I think what's clear to me is, and before I kind of wrap up, I wanted to share that all the conversation about teachers and the conversation about our experience in schools made me quickly reach out to my favorite teacher ever, who was my 9th grade civics teacher, Judy, and I got her to join. So Judy's joined us. And Judy was that teacher in my life who she had her classroom open during lunch every day. And for kids like me who maybe didn't fit in every place where they needed to, they had a place to go. And Judy has been a friend for me since then, and I'm so happy that she joined us today to be a part and to hear, because I know that your words have inspired her as much as they have inspired me for my entire life. And so I'm glad that we can continue to have those relationships. And I think Evan's point that was so thoughtful earlier, which is, while things are so hard right now, if we continue to try to find empathy and understanding and know that we're all going through different and hard things at the same time, that's really important. And so all of you have really shown me that no one really has the answers and no one really has the corner on expertise about what we should be doing, but that together we can really figure out some pretty great things to do. So I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation together, to continuing to have this space. And I know I'm going to turn it over to Kate to close this out here to talk a little bit about next steps, but I want you to all think about what we should do next. Should we have a conversation specific about school? Should we have a conversation specific about social determinants of health? A lot of folks talked about housing and transportation and food security. Should we have a conversation about policy and advocacy? What are the spaces that we should move to, and who are the people that you want to be there to listen? Because we can try to help coordinate and make those things happen, because I think that your thoughts and your insight would be really powerful for folks in government and across our state to be hearing from voices like yours. So I want to make sure that we do that. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. It's been my privilege to be here with you. And Kate, I'll turn things over to you to close us out.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary Kinsley, or since it's Saturday, Cody, for being here and being part of this conversation. I don't know, I feel like I can speak for all of our community partners and our staff at DHHS and the division when I say that we are blown away by all of you young people handling things the way you're handling them, responding with resiliency, just the comments, the interaction with each other. I see you connecting with one another, and it's heartwarming, but it also shows us that we do have a lot of work to go. I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to move through just saying thank you to our panelists today, our youth panelists that kind of helped us put together some of the questions. We're going to follow up with all of you who have registered to participate to see if you'd like to continue these conversations, how we can do that. Elijah, Lauren, I know Siri and Ryan both had to go, and so did George. But Matthew, all of you, thank you so much for your input and helping us to shape this event and make it what it is. I also want to thank our community partners, Say So, Youth Move, North Carolina Families United, Family Supports Network of North Carolina, NAMI North Carolina, and the Governor's Institute. The Governor's Institute is live streaming this on YouTube and on Facebook, so we'll send out those links for you all to share with your friends. And the next time we do this, we want to really make sure that we can get more time in. So now I know we can do it longer, and we can get more of the youth who's had some very valuable things to share, commenting and sharing and giving us feedback. I want to thank our chat monitors today, Virginia, Rachel Z, Rachel L, Whitney, Kyle, and Moya. Thank you so much for monitoring the chat. And then if you all have not seen this, this is an acronym that we use at work at the division, and we share with a lot of the adults that we support as well. And it stands for, SCOOP stands for Stay Connected to Friends and Family, Have Compassion for Yourself and Others, Observe Your Use of Substances, It's Okay to Ask for Help. Asking for help is actually very brave, and Physical Activity to Improve Your Mood. And we'll share some links on how to do that, and I'd love to hear how you all are doing that in your own life as part of your self-care. And then I'm also going to share our Hope for NC line. This is a 24/7 support and resource line, and there is a chat option. And you'll get a copy of this, so don't worry. If you miss a phone number, we'll make sure that you get it. We want to make sure that all of these resources are available to you. If you find yourself in a crisis, we do want to recommend you contact your doctor or call 911 for emergency services. Ask for a CIT officer if you have to call 911. We have some additional resources that we've been trying to put in the chat throughout this event. But again, we'll make sure that you get this, and you'll get a copy of these resources. I don't know why it transitioned like that, but there's some additional information on our local management entities. Those are the entities that help provide some support in our communities. And then finally, if you need to get in touch with me to help connect you to each other, to more resources, or you're really just interested in being involved, here's my contact information. Thank you again so much. Thank you, Ginger and Jill, our interpreters for today. And I hope that you all enjoyed this as much as I did. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more from our young leaders in the community. You all have a great rest of your day. Eat some lunch, get some water, and some fresh air. Thank you.